Please be seated, Council. Sorry. I've got a drink of water. I would like to welcome everyone here this evening to this meeting of Newcastle City Council, and welcome also to everyone who is watching the meeting online. Before we just settle at the back? Before we start the formal business, there's just a couple of things I want to mention. First of all, in relation to voting, because perhaps voting could become quite an important issue in the weeks ahead. Sometimes with the Go vote, it's a bit confusing about how people are voting. I know that most of you can vote on the Go vote system, but if you can't, can I ask that any elected member who can't use the Go vote system should give their name clearly, and should say how they're going to vote on the particular issue. And what I'll do is I'll work across the council chamber from left to right. So if you can stand and give your name clearly, this is for the benefit of taking the minutes of the meeting and taking the vote, and then to register to say how you're going to vote on that particular issue. And the second point is about anyone wanting to speak in relation to a point of order or point of information. Sometimes it does get a bit chaotic with people shouting from their seats or leaping up and down, which is perhaps not the best way to do things. So if anybody does want to make a point of order, point of information about anything, raise your hand. I will invite you to go to the microphone. Oh, gosh, that's not Councillor Powers doing it now, but I'll invite you to go to the microphone. You can then state what the issue is, and then we can deal with it properly. So it's just really about having a sense of order about that. So if we just remember that about the voting and about any issues of points of order, etc. So if we can now move on to any apologies for this evening's meeting, if we have them.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've had apologies from Councillors Iramali, Anand, Austin, Campion, Crew, Kemp, Lawson, Sadiq, Shotwell, Stoker Walker, David Wood, Margaret Wood, Stevie Wood.
Any other apologies that haven't been mentioned there that people want to draw to our attention? No, I don't see anybody. Okay, in that case, can we agree the minutes of the last council meeting, which was held on the 2nd of October? Agreed? We'll now move on to item 3, and item 3 is connected with the recent tragic events at Violet Close. I do have an announcement I'd like to read out, but I just want to say from a personal level, first of all, that the area around Violet Close used to be part of my ward before they changed the boundaries, and they ran a very active residents group. I used to go along there and meet people, and so when I learned about the events there and I heard some of the names of people, it was a very personal issue. It was very tragic because I know some of those people, I know them, those families, and I know what they've gone through. So I just want to read a statement here which I think hopefully captures the way we feel as a council. On the 16th of October, 3 weeks ago today, our city was rocked by a tragic incident which sadly claimed the lives of 2 people. An explosion at Violet Close in the Elsick ward sadly resulted in the deaths of 7-year-old Archie York and 33-year-old Jason Laws. Our thoughts remain firmly with those who are grieving for the loss of loved ones and all of those who continue to be affected by this tragedy. Beyond the devastating loss of lives and injuries suffered, the effects of what took place in the early hours of that Wednesday morning have been profound. More than 100 people were forced from their homes in the middle of the night with just the clothes that they had on their backs. The response of the emergency services, council officers, the local community and the wider community has been nothing short of remarkable, demonstrating just how Newcastle rallies round to support its own at a time of dire need. Thankfully, many have now been supported back to their homes, have been given new tenancies or are in temporary homes whilst repairs are carried out. The emergency services continue to conduct their painstaking investigations into what took place, and our officers are continuing to support these efforts in every possible way. On behalf of the city, I send my thanks to the first responders and the blue light crews that have been involved, To all council officers who have played their part in supporting the huge number of people who have been affected by what took place, and to the wider community for the outpouring of offers of support that have been coming in since the moment this incident occurred. I also commend the bravery, patience and perseverance of those residents who have been caught up in this incredibly traumatic experience. Their resilience in the face of such difficulty is an inspiration to us all. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to propose, because we talked about the loss of life, I'd like to propose a minute silence, Council, if we can do that, if we'd just like to rise. Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you. I just have a further announcement to make. Of course, we are now approaching Remembrance Sunday. So the Bishop of Newcastle is conducting the Remembrance Sunday service at the War Memorial in Eldon Square on Sunday the 10th of November, which is coming Sunday. Members will have received invitations to join myself, and I hope that as many as possible can join us on the day to commemorate what is such an important event in the city. So that's on next Sunday, the 10th of November. Correspondence. Has Council agreed to receive correspondence? I think we've received one piece of correspondence, is that right? Yes? Anyway, does Council agree to receive correspondence? Petitions. There's been no petitions for Council this evening. So we'll move on to item 6, which is public questions. And I understand we have a public question from Mr. Gartland. Yes, Mr. Gartland. So you have Mr. Gartland. Thanks for coming along this evening. You have 5 minutes to address Council, which you're perhaps aware of. I don't know the procedures, but anyway, you have 5 minutes to address Council. I'll then invite a response, which I think is coming from the Leader of Council, Councillor Kilgour, and then you will have a minute to respond in relation to the response that you get from the Leader of Council. So over to you then, Mr. Gartland, for your presentation.
Perfect. Thank you. On the 4th of September 2024, Nick Kemp backed our call for an immediate ceasefire and the suspension of arms used to commit war crimes. As the new council leader, we ask you to make that same declaration. Over the summer, a study was published in the journal Lancet. It stated that the death toll is expected to be far larger, given that much of Gaza's infrastructure has been destroyed and that there are shortages of food, water and shelter. Now that Israel has decided to ban the United Nations Relief Works Agency, the already inhospitable conditions for the Palestinian people in Gaza will worsen. The Lancet report stated that based on data from previous conflicts, the true death toll as a result of indirect deaths caused by imposed starvation, dehydration, suffocation, and worse, will be 3 to 15 times the direct deaths. That means we could be looking at a true death toll of between 123 and 615,000. International doctors who have been working in Gaza themselves declare the true death toll is far higher than the routinely published 43,204 as of October 31st. With this clear breach of international law, what steps will the Council take to lobby our government to suspend further arms licences which are contributing to this genocide? Further, there is an Israeli state-owned weapons factory on Scotswood Road named Armstrong Works that manufactures weapons and tools for Israel to enact genocide such as F-35 fighter jets. Will the Council petition the closure of this factory, ending its manufacturing of arms for Israel, and have it repurposed for a non-military purpose? During the aforementioned Council meeting, Nick Kemp stated the Council was taking steps to become an anti-racist city. Yet, other than making public statements, what has the Council done to promote the rights of Palestinians' existence and to condemn the genocide being conducted by the Israeli regime? 2 months ago, we stated that it should not be the people of Newcastle who hold all the responsibility for fighting against racism, xenophobia, and discrimination more broadly. We now ask, after all that time, what exactly the Council has done or seeks to do to protect those who may be discriminated against, to educate those who may discriminate, and inform those who are uninformed. What steps has the Council taken to ensure Palestinians living in Newcastle feel safe and assured that this truly is an anti-racism city? We have already established the catastrophic ethnic cleansing being conducted by the Israeli regime. This Council has a duty to make Palestinians living in Newcastle feel seen, protected, and represented. That can take the forms of fundraising, to more frequent public statements, to collaborative public Palestinian projects, and more. These things have not happened, but it is paramount they do if this Council genuinely seeks to take any sort of meaningful stance on the right side of history.
Thank you very much. And I think Councillor Kilgour can invite you to respond. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mr. Gartland, for your question. As leader of this council, I reiterate our backing of the call for an immediate ceasefire, the release of hostages, and call for a significant and immediate increase in aid to Gaza. It is devastating to see the continued suffering of innocent civilians and the loss of life that we've seen in Gaza that you've just so eloquently described. As a leader of council, I'm elected to represent the residents of Newcastle, many of whom are Muslim, and I condemn the horrifying violence that's taking place, and this council has also previously passed motions to condemn it. I also reiterate our backing of the government's September announcement following its review of export licences and Israel's compliance, or lack of it, with international humanitarian law to suspend licences for items used in the conflict in Gaza, which go to the Israeli Defence Forces. These items include important components which go into military aircraft, including fighter aircraft, helicopters and drones, as well as items which facilitate ground targeting that would be used in Gaza. This council would support suspension of any further licences identified as being used in war crimes. This council takes its commitment to fighting racism very seriously in our service delivery, our influence as city leaders, and in our policies. Our wide-ranging work goes way beyond the formal public statements of support that you rightly recognise we've made, from funding community action and schools activity, to anti-racism and tackling Islamophobia, to equalities, diversity and inclusion training for our own workforce, to representation and collaboration in Newcastle's networks that bring communities together, to formalising our political priority for equality, diversity and inclusion with a lead cabinet member to champion this important area and to lead our EDI board and report on our action to Council. As our latest report brought to Council last month describes, our work with partners across the city to become an anti-racist city has indeed begun. We will develop an anti-racist charter that aligns commitment of our partners and key institutions, and we will engage community leaders and champions to explore the lived experiences of our communities. We know that the fear and anxiety caused by violence and hatred is also felt by Palestinians in our city, and so we will continue to focus our activity of ensuring that all people in Newcastle feel safe and see that we, as their council, are actively promoting their right to live safely and free from fear here in our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilgour. Mr. Gartland, 1 minute to respond to any of the observations made.
Your words and commitments are fantastic, but what we need now is action. What we need now is for you as council leader and for you as the council here to take action and make meaningful change and meaningful changes to this city. Your failure to acknowledge the weapons factory in Newcastle will be devastating to Palestinians and pro-Palestinians living in Newcastle. It is catastrophic and unjustifiable that there is a weapons factory in Newcastle, in our city, and that this council will not seek to address it or address it in any capacity. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gartland. Thank you. We now move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is a presentation by the Youth Council, who are present at the back of the council chamber this evening. I don't know if they want to come forward to the front of the chamber. I had the pleasure, whilst they're doing so, I'll just say that I had the pleasure of meeting some members of the Youth Council both at the Climate Change Summit that they had recently at the Discovery Museum, which was absolutely fascinating and very important in the present climate emergency that we have. And I also had the chance to meet them in the council in the mayor's chambers before tonight's meeting and learn a bit about some of their priorities in terms of what they want from the council. And I'm sure in the next 10 minutes with questions, that's what we'll be hearing. So over to you. If you, I think we have a line-up here. So just when you're ready to start.
Hello, we are the Youth Council and Parliament. We are delighted to present the work we have done since we have been elected in March and goals we hope to achieve as a team. I am Sama, part of the Youth Council. We will start off with our climate change work. Thank you for having us.
Hello everyone, my name is Jivan Abhilash and I'm part of the Youth Parliament. Us as a Youth Council have worked a lot with tackling climate change. For starters, we planned a climate change summit that took place before the summer, which secondary school students could attend and educate themselves about climate change. After the summer, me and some other youth councillors created an educational video to go along with the Green Careers Pack to educate kids about green careers. We planned a climate change forum which anyone could attend and talk about what the council could be doing better in sectors like energy, transport and waste. Tomorrow, we are hosting a Net Zero Hero event for primary school students to attend and learn about climate change and net zero.
Hi, I'm B. Payne, and I'm part of Newcastle Youth Council. I'm going to be talking about our Every partnership, and one of my favourite things I have done as part of the Newcastle Youth Council so far is getting the opportunity to speak at the Every anniversary event this year. Every is a fantastic organisation that continues to ensure that companies deliver on promises to young people. This is part of the yearly events to celebrate what has been done and what should be accomplished by next year. By partnering with Every, we spoke to over 50 people, part of important businesses in the northeast and Newcastle, about how they can help young people. This was effective for us as it allowed us to communicate our feelings on living in our community and how we felt it could be improved. Our voice felt valued and appreciated. We had one-on-one conversations with some of the key leaders across the city. One of the ways they are currently focusing on supporting young people is increasing inspirational experiences of work, which plays a vital role in the futures of young people. Every holds these organisations to account in their commitments to creating experiences for us. For example, the Every Youth Parliament debating competition run by Finley is a great example of how they have provided ways for us to create events we care about. This is really important for us as we think more people like the council should be doing these things and doing what they can to listen and support to young people. I hope to see this wonderful partnership continue to grow.
Hi, my name is Cara and I'm a member of Youth Council. We have also been working on projects for White Ribbon, starting in our North Youth Voice group. White Ribbon is a charity whose aim is to prevent gender-based violence, particularly aimed at helping women and girls. To support this charity and build awareness of this cause, we have decided to do an art project about this. So far, we have hired an artist and thought of some ideas for the project. We are really hoping this can make a difference in the community and inspire others around us.
Hi, my name's Molly Borden and I am a part of the Youth Council. We have done so much so far in aiming to improve green spaces as they are so important to young people. For example, in encouraging physical activity, socialising and improving mental health. We've done a lot of work specifically with Urban Green. Members of Urban Green have previously attended multiple of our Youth Council meetings in order to understand what we think are the good features of parks in Newcastle, as well as features which need improving. Additionally, we have discussed our ideas to improve the safety, lighting, attendance and more in relation to these parks. Coming up with ideas ranging from fairy lights, which don't disrupt wildlife yet provide a bit of light in dark areas, making people feel safer, to rentable equipment in the parks. We're looking forward to see how ideas will come to life in continuing months. Now we are going to move on to what we are planning to do in the future. We are currently focused on improving communication with young people outside of the council, as it is important for all young people's voices to be heard. We have considered some ideas during youth council meetings, such as a question box which would be in schools and then brought to youth council meetings. This means we can discuss students' ideas and concerns. We also thought about a number which would be shared with young people so they're able to message their ideas to us. Additionally, we considered members of the Youth Council doing assemblies or presentations in school to spread these messages. Finally, we are also going to share more of what we have already done with the Youth Council via social media so other young people can understand what's already happening in Newcastle. We have a member of comms attending our next meeting following this conversation, so things are already in the works. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Poppy. I'm a member of Youth Parliament for Newcastle.
And I'm Aisha, and I'm a member of Youth Council from Newcastle.
And we're talking about mental health. Firstly, I want to talk about meeting with the Integrated Care Board that took place in our last council meeting in October. We looked at two different ideas we want to implement. One was a hobby hub, so increasing extracurriculars so children can make friends and increase their physical well-being, while also contributing to helping young children and their mental health. Additionally, we also hope to implement more support in schools across Newcastle, adding more professionals who are qualified in helping children experiencing mental health problems. They feel more supported and able to share their issues and concerns that they are facing. As a member of Youth Parliament, I attended the UK Youth Parliament annual conference with Finley in Warwick over the last weekend. We discussed lots of things regarding mental health, so it was very much a top priority for the Youth Parliament as well.
We've also been working with Urban Green to make parks and other green spaces better, which would improve mental health and encourage young people to get out into the fresh air more and interact with more people of their age or of a similar age. Additionally, we addressed online safety and wanted to act on the concerns hiding behind screens and help young people feel more safe and secure online. And now I'll hand over to Jaden for public.
Hi, I'm Jaden, a member of the Youth Council, and today I want to talk about transport. Transport is one of our biggest issues here on the Youth Council because of three main things: public transport cost, public transport antisocial behaviour, and public transport greenery. One of the main issues is public transport greenery, which can be established from metros being sort of run on fuel right now, but being planned to being turned to electric in 2025 when they are released to the public. But also our costs are one of the main things need to be addressed. It's $110 just to get to school now and back for an all-day ticket. That's a lot, and it adds up to $365 per day if you plus more. $110 can add up, and it will add up. But a main issue on this could be something like a concession pass or a pop card that could help many. A petition has already been started for this and will hopefully in the future help this.
Hello, I'm Barath and I'm part of the Youth Council. We did a joint meeting with Public Health to discuss young people's concerns around vaping. Following the announcement of the ban on disposable vapes next June, we'll be meeting with Public Health in the new year to discuss how the ban addresses young people's concerns around vapes and what we can do. Now we're going to talk about the school attendance project.
Hi. My school attendance was under 30% over a 3-year period. The widespread national issue of school attendance is often perceived to be from laziness and parental negligence. However, from my experience, I see the main root to be the mental health struggles of my generation. I would not describe myself as a school refuser. I would describe myself as a neurodivergent young person with ambitions and aspirations just like any other student. I tried my hardest to fit, but the education system did not have room for me, nor the thousands of other young people across Newcastle who don't fit the expected mould. When a young person is not attending school, there are always reasons, which are wide and varied, and that is usually not wouldn't, but couldn't. The importance of attendance is hammered into us repeatedly from day one, that when I couldn't attend, all those teachings did was reinforce my feelings of failure. Each student is a young person with specific needs who wishes to have experiences with their friends, learn new things, and achieve their goals. As Youth Council, we aim to help change attitudes and provide resources in order for young people like myself to accomplish all they want in their futures. These needs should be addressed and discussed with the young person so that they can thrive, not just survive in education. Stop shaming non-attendance and start understanding it. I'll pass on to Finley now with the next step.
Hi, I'm Finley. I'm a member of Youth Parliament for Newcastle. So we've told you what we've done, we've told you what we're planning to do, and our next steps are to continue to work for our constituents. But I hope you understand that we are a wide varied youth council, so we feel we can do that well with our personal experiences as well. We're going to continue working with the local Youth Voice project and other youth projects like Every, and we want to work with you as well. And we think you as a council are key going forwards in our next steps. With that in mind, we're going to open up to questions, I think.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. And I think you've bravely offered to... I think in our pre-meeting as well, you bravely offered to respond to all the questions on behalf of your colleagues. So shall I just take them one by one, and then you can respond to each question as the question's asked, okay? So first of all, I've got Councillor Kilgour, followed by Councillor Burns. So if Councillor Kilgour, Councillor Burns would like to make their way to the microphone.
Thank you. It's not a question so much, it's more to say thank you so much for your presentation and for raising the issues you have, and particularly for sharing some of your personal experiences there. I know that can be really, really hard, and I really appreciate you opening up in the way that you have and sharing those experiences with us. It's really important that we hear that. Your representation is so important. And it's important that not only that we hear your voices, but that we act on your concerns and that we work with you to co-create solutions to the issues that you've raised. So thank you all for your work, and I really look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilgour. So that's more of a thank you than a question, isn't it? So I'll move on to Councillor Burns then, to be followed by Councillor Story.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd also like to thank you for all the work you're doing representing young people across the city. And actually, my question that I had prepared for you tonight, I didn't expect you to say something so relevant. What you said about attendance in schools really resonated with me. I have 2 teenagers in high school, and the pressure to attend whilst feeling under enormous pressure to perform can be really quite crippling on times. And I think really my question around that was, I agree about not shaming in terms of attendance. So how do you feel, and how do the young people you work with and that you talk to feel schools and councils can make school a more appealing place to be? What are the changes, even small things, that could be implemented to make school a more comfortable environment for you?
Thank you. I think, I know I said I was going to answer all of them, but because this is so personal to B, I'm going to pass back to B for this one.
All right.
I really appreciate that. I think really, well, to be, I don't want to avoid it in a way, but a lot of young people have more specific needs. I'd say listening to that is the most important thing, but if you want to talk about some ideas in general, I would say, at least for autistic kids, because that's the experience I can speak on, is, making things, obviously in big schools, it's hard, and not every kid can integrate into a main school, and it's about what they need. So, for me, it would be having the ability to wear my headphones, like my noise cancelling headphones. I need them to be able to continue throughout the day. Like today, I went through a full school day, and without these, I would be completely overwhelmed right now, and I wouldn't be able to be here. So those are the kind of things, and being able to have a safe space for me to go to in school, just places where kids can feel safe, really, I think is so important. So
Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Thanks. Councillor Story, to be followed by Councillor Ferguson.
Hello. thank you all so much for coming along tonight, and thank you for meeting me earlier. I've learnt so much about the work that you're doing and the commitment and the bravery and the honesty that you bring to the chamber tonight. I really appreciate that. My question is, you have so much to give, and I really want to know what I can do as a councillor and as a portfolio member, but also what every other councillor in this chamber can do to really help you to make your ideas come to life, to have concrete plans, that kind of very practical support to help you to realise your ambitions and your manifestos. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Also, thank you to all of you for having us here. I'd just like to very quickly, before I get to your question, add on to B. I think schools, and it was a manifesto point for me, need to also become more student-led. Like, students don't feel like they have a voice. They feel like they're going to school, they're being kind of told what to do rather than doing what they like to do and don't feel like they have a voice. With respect to your question, how can councillors work with us? I think it's kind of our key message is like acting on what young people want to say, not just listening, and working with the young people in your wards, and listening to what they want to say and giving young people that recognition that you've heard what they want, what you'd like them to do, and through that acting on it and showing that you're doing what you want to do. And if you want to work with us as well for anything and want to get our advice on anything, you can contact the Voice and Influence team as well.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor Ferguson. And Councillor Ferguson to be followed finally by Councillor Musharraf. Yes, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I suspect you're all going to get a little bit bored of everyone thanking you for coming today. But genuinely, I think all too often in this chamber we spend time talking to ourselves and amongst each other. And not often enough do we get people, and particularly young people, coming in from outside. And I think this is now 2 meetings in a row where that's happening. I think it's genuinely really valuable for us to hear what you have to say. And, you know, I made a note of some of the key themes that were coming out of the things that you all said. I guess my question, the thing that I'm really interested in, because I'm actually really passionate about supporting young people to get involved in politics and the political process, because I think all too often your voice gets missed. Politicians aren't really hearing what young people have to say, and then so the things that they go and do don't really have any relevance or resonance for you. So I'm really interested to know what more we can do across this chamber to support you and others to get young people involved in the political process. I'm not necessarily saying getting involved in politics and sitting here, because politics is broader than this council chamber. It's a process much broader than that. But what can we do to help you to get involved so that we know what your priorities are, like you've told us here this evening?
Thank you very much, Councillor Ferguson. So I think, for starters, our elections in March were the first one since 2019. So I think definitely a key point is a continuation of the Youth Council and Youth Parliament elections. I mean, going to Youth Parliament conference the other weekend in Warwick was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I think also wider opportunities and more opportunities for young people. So, like we mentioned earlier, through my role as a member of Youth Parliament, I'm working with the Every Partnership to organise a debate competition, because that's something that we're missing in Newcastle, when every sixth form has a debate society. And also better communications, which is something that we've already said we're working on. So currently, the communications, especially for our age bracket, we're kind of in the middle. We're not young, we're not old in terms of children and young people. So it doesn't really resonate with us. And by having better communications, you're able to let people know what's happening more, and they can get more involved. And then you can find out more about what your young constituents would want as well. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. And finally, Councillor Musharraf.
Thank you, all the youth leaders. I had the opportunity to be a mentor or a project which was run by British Council in a third world country like Bangladesh. And after doing that project, I actually told my mentee that I've learned more from them than what they could have learned from me. And I think that echoes the same here. The way you all presented yourself and the findings you have presented with the fact is plausible, and thank you very much for all the work you have done. As a Green Councillor, we always wanted to make sure our future generation will leave behind in a stable climate and biodiversity way. And I just wanted to ask, you probably have answered it already in your presentation, but I just want to specifically ask how important it is for our active outdoors and a greener space in your future, and what we can do as a council to make sure that activity, greener space and a safer space in outdoors has been protected.
Yeah, so this is something, thank you very much. This is something that we've discussed quite a lot, especially in our consultations with Urban Green. And the biggest thing is safety in outdoor spaces. Young people don't feel safe. There's obviously a lack of lighting, which is hard, and we've been talking with Urban Green about that because of nature and how lighting affects nature. But also, we've worked with Urban Green to develop a scheme where the ranger will leave a board with their phone number so that if a young person or anyone is in trouble, they know where the ranger might be, they have the ranger's contact details. And I know in News Park there's an SOS box as well. And in terms of activeness in the city as well, I cycle a lot of places, and I live next to Tammore and Gosforth, and just from there, as soon as I hit the city centre, the cycling infrastructure is great. You've got bike traffic lights outside the civic centre, but coming into it, it's not so good. I was almost hit by a bus actually on the way home from school today because it was in the wrong lane and tried to merge into the lane I was in. And that could have been avoided if there wasn't a car parked in a bike lane that I could have gone in, which I had to avoid because the car was parked in it. So I think active transport is a really important way of getting young people involved in getting them active in the city, and parks are one way to do that, but also the wider active transport infrastructure across the city is something that we're hearing a lot about as well.
Thank you very much indeed, and thanks for the final question. That's been wonderful. It's been just it's been wonderful to meet you all before council. I met you, of course, at a previous event. I think you're coming along to meet me again in the council chamber, so I'll hear more about it. But you've all spoken so well this evening. It really is a powerful voice on behalf of young people. And the issues that you've raised here, I think, are really crucial issues. And we'll look forward to them coming back to the council in the future. So on behalf of the council, many, many thanks to all of you. Well done. And many congratulations on being elected to the Youth Council. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll just give time for our young visitors, unless they want to stay on. I don't know if you want to stay on or if you're leaving. You're staying on, gosh. Well done. If you want to leave at any time, feel free to do so. Don't feel that you are, consigned to stay till the end of the meeting. Right, so we now move on to, follow that actually, yeah. We now move on to item 8 on the agenda, which is a presentation of the local plan, and I call on Council Leader Councillor Kilgour to move the report, and I think being seconded by Councillor Cairns. So, Councillor Kilgour.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As members know, it is a statutory requirement for all local authorities to have an up-to-date local plan. The role of the local plan is to guide decisions on future development proposals, and it addresses the needs and opportunities of the area. It will create a spatial framework for our city, which will embed the Council's priorities into a statutory strategy for sustainable growth. That's not easy to say. Our current local plan was prepared some 10 years ago in partnership with Gateshead Council, and given changes in national and local legislation, and to meet our priorities and challenges, it's essential that we update it to ensure we have a planning framework which is up to date, reflects the ambitions of the city, and is based on a robust evidence base. I'm sure you're aware that the government has set out proposals to improve the planning system, and strategic planning is at the heart of the agenda, with a push towards authorities working together to address the needs of their communities. And given regional planning powers and greater partnership working across the North East, Cabinet agreed in October that the local plan should be prepared together with Gateshead Council. Working jointly with Gateshead will help us to deliver our ambitions and has the benefit of placing us at the centre of the North East Combined Authority area. The Newcastle Gateshead plan will help us take a more comprehensive approach to planning across boundaries to provide opportunities and help us to tackle poverty, improve health outcomes, address the cost of living crisis, working towards achieving net zero and becoming economically inclusive. Lord Mayor, there is a wealth of information in the report and attached appendices, which I will take as read by members, and I'm very pleased to move the report. I look forward to hearing contributions to the debate from colleagues in the chamber. Although I would remind colleagues that the only decision being asked for tonight is to approve the preparation of a joint plan with Gateshead.
Thank you, Councillor Kilgour. Can I remind subsequent speakers that you have 3 minutes to speak, so if I could go to Councillor Cairns to second the report.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There are significant reforms of the planning system proposed during the current Parliament. The key issues I wish to address in talking to this report are the changes to the National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF, that focus on delivery of housing, the brownfield first approach and a cross-boundary and regional working. I think Councillor Kilgour has already mapped out the overall structure, but I want to just focus on these 3 issues. The strategic element of the new proposals place regional mayors as central to the development process. Mayors will need to develop and agree spatial development strategies, SDSs, for their areas. And local plans will need to link with these regional SDSs for delivery. The brownfield first approach remains, must remember my semicolon. However, there are significant proposals mapped out for how we deal with potential greenbelt development. Local plan development also needs to address cross-sector and regional economic growth strategies, i.e. the SDSs, and to ensure cross-boundary delivery of infrastructure. I've been looking at the critiques of the proposals across sectors, and I draw upon the Local Government Association's response as it seemed pertinent to today's debate. Their recommendations on the delivery of affordable homes is worthy of note. They argue that further investment should be made in the Brownfield Release Fund. This has been significant for Newcastle through developments at the Helix and Forth Goods Yard, and it's essential if we are not to see a drift towards greater use of grey and green belt sites to meet centralised targets. I want to sort of pick up, looking at the time, I want to pick up on one aspect of an LGA briefing from October, which makes a point that people cannot live in planning permissions and argues that local authorities must be given greater powers to ensure prompt build-out of sites granted planning permission. Local authorities deliver planning permissions, developers should deliver the homes set out in their applications. So it's relevant that without this shift in local authorities' abilities and expectations to deliver homes, they should not be subject to punitive measures that ultimately undermine a plan-led system. I want to just finish off that in developing our joint local plan, it's essential that we have a meaningful voice and role within regional approaches to spatial planning that recognises locally agreed priorities. Our past joint work with Gateshead puts us in a strong position as government favours collaboration between local authorities. The key to all this is that we have an up-to-date development plan jointly worked on together with Gateshead, so we take the lead in mapping out our local direction of growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cairns. I now have 6 speakers, and can I remind you that it is 3 minutes each, so if I start with Councillor Barnett, followed by Councillor Lovett.
I am proud to support the vision for the Newcastle Gateshead plan. Planning is one of the country's most essential issues, and we, as a city, need to continue to grow and build for the future. So it's only natural that we work with our brethren across the Tyne. Newcastle is a growing city, but we need an updated plan that fulfills the needs of our residents and addresses a range of relevant issues, whether that be economic growth or access to healthcare. Housing is fundamental to all our lives, and creating a system with better housing stock and more affordable housing can only benefit us as a city and our community. A city that builds is one that cares, and we can create a system that works for all. We have a diverse range of housing stock that reflects the different needs and desires, whether that be for old or young, for those who are single or those with children, or those who have mobility needs. We need to build these homes for whatever the need is. This city was built to grow and provide for the contemporary needs of its citizens. Nowhere outside the possibility of London do you get such a diverse range of architecture, from medieval to Georgian to Victorian to modern. We even built a train line right next to a Norman castle. I don't think that would get through planning these days. But we need a new plan that reflects the needs of our 21st century citizens. We have challenges that we face that can be addressed by housing, whether it be climate change or an ageing population. And we can help mitigate that by work on issues such as retrofitting. Building for the future is a significant challenge and an opportunity that only makes sense to work with Gateshead Council, so we create future homes and other infrastructure that will benefit residents of both areas. People travel across the town daily to work, shop and study. So making this major strategic decision together is only sensible and natural. Newcastle Gateshead Plan is one that will create a vision for a city that is booming and one that develops the needs of its residents and corrects any issues that may come in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barnett. Councillor Lovett, followed by Councillor Herridge. If Councillor Herridge would like to make your way to the microphone. Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you to everyone who has taken part in putting this report together and responding and giving feedback. But I'm not sure 1,700 responses is representative of the population of Newcastle. I can see much effort's been put into writing the report, but it's weighted towards those organisations and pressure groups that are more likely to respond, fill out forms and provide feedback. As a result, the report and the outcome could be skewed. What happened to going out into the community and knocking on doors to get people's views? That would be a lot more representative of the community. On page 109, there's 5 responses about improving parks. I'm sure people in every ward would have liked to have had their say about that. Forden Park, for an example, which is managed by the council, is not particularly very welcoming. The plan also provides feedback on transport. We can't get a decision on a bus shelter on Gosforth High Street after 8 winters, never mind fulfil the aspirations of those who responded in the local plan. What is going to change? And once again, thank you to everyone for taking part, but will any of it be put into practice? I would also recommend that council go back out and conduct door-to-door representative surveys, which in no doubt will provide a more realistic outcome for everybody. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Lovett. Councillor Herridge, followed by Councillor Mark Mitchell. Mark Mitchell would like to. Okay.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and it may be slightly off topic, but it would be remiss of me not to mention at the top that my personal solidarity with our cousins in America who may be feeling particularly vulnerable or scared after today. So turning to the local plan, I just wanted to mention that I am of course in support of working together with Gateshead on this. It just makes sense. But what I would like to say is I would implore the council, and we are working with Gateshead, to use our combined lobbying power to lobby central government to change the planning laws to make it easier to hold the companies building these estates to account and to the planning applications that they put in. Grey Park is in my ward, and there are thousands of residents who live on there who don't have any, well, very little of the infrastructure that they were promised when they moved in over 10 years ago, some of them. And on top of that as well, working with the North East Combined Authority, as I know we already do, on the new mayor's plan to bring the buses into public ownership, so that we can set the bus routes for our residents, as we know the best the communities that need to be serviced by these buses and the links between those local communities. For example, on Great Park, we've recently lost a frequent link to Gosforth, which is our most local community that we're linked with. Well, we do have a link now through Kingston Park. It's, mostly people go there for shopping. So it is sad that we've lost that, but that's entirely down to the fact that the land on Great Park is privately owned, the buses are privately run, and without those being in public ownership and having greater control over these estates being built across the city in Newcastle and Gateshead, we can't build proper communities for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Herridge. Councillor Mark Mitchell, followed by Councillor Cookson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think there are 3 points I'd like to make. The first one, I'm frankly a bit confused as to why we're partnering with Gateshead here. The only border we share with Gateshead is a river, and last I knew, nobody was building houses or roads in the river. Why are we not instead working closely with Northumberland, with which we share a great deal of green belt, and with North Tyneside, when we know there will be developments over the next 10 years that cross both boundaries, and where we have a far more common interest, not just on how we do this, but actually working together on areas that directly impact residents across those boundaries. My second comment relates to affordable housing. There is a lot of mention of affordable housing in the plan and a little bit of mention of Section 106, but there is no discussion in the plan about the extent to which affordable housing is integrated into our communities rather than being separated off and put in fairly small areas of the city. One of the key things about affordable housing when you talk to residents is we need affordable housing in every ward and in every development, not in 3 or 4 parts of the city. My final point, and I must declare an interest here because I live in a development which is not yet adopted, there is a significant issue across this city about developers not having estates adopted properly and residents being left for months, if not years, with insufficient facilities and being passed from pillar to post because the councillors have not adopted the highways and the developers are not taking responsibility, and the council does not appear to be picking up on that and actually pushing things forward. I know it's not wholly the council's responsibility, it lies with developers as well, but I think this is something that residents would appreciate the council actually trying to get a handle on.
Thank you, Councillor Cookson, and to be followed finally by Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I was going to pose a different question tonight, but actually I think it's important to reflect on the questions raised by the Youth Council tonight. Given that the decisions that we make now in forming the local plan will ultimately be delivered in the future, how do we ensure that we're planning a city that is fit for future generations, that includes the things they've so clearly expressed tonight? Safe places, outdoors to play and hang out, safe ways to get around, as ultimately it'll be them and their future generations who live in the city that we're setting out a plan for from today.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Ever so slightly taken by surprise this evening because I was expecting that we were receiving a report from Cabinet, but I understand that actually we're being asked to agree, particularly, as the leader notes, the partnership with Gateshead in the delivery of this local plan. It's already been mentioned by Councillor Mitchell that there are some oddities here whenever we have clear land boundary with North Tyneside, with Northumberland. There is a sense given that we've got changes coming down from the new National Planning Policy Framework, I think, which are still in some senses being worked through. And so I felt like I had to stand up and say, we had an early consultation report on the 15th of January. We're now talking about a partnership with Gateshead. I worry that we are missing the opportunity to preempt what will come next, which will be an expectation that this will be a Newcastle North Tyneside Gateshead plan, and then in due course a Newcastle North Tyneside Northumberland Gateshead plan, and then perhaps in due course just a North East plan. So I'm very uneasy to proceed with this proposal to go ahead with Gateshead when, as Councillor Mitchell quite rightly notes, there is a river there, and we're ignoring our next door neighbours to the north of it.
Councillor Kilgour to reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Quite an interesting set of comments and a few questions, which interesting that we always get some bits of casework at council, isn't it? I'll address a couple of those issues, if I may. Adoption isn't part of the local plan. That's a separate issue that we need to deal with, absolutely, but nothing to do with this report. Councillor Lovett asked if we could go and knock on doors. I think you'll find there's actually been extensive consultation. We've been out into community centres across the city, huge consultation with a great deal of engagement. We have a population of 300,000 in the city. I'm not quite sure where you think we'd get the resources from to knock on every single door. And if you want us to pay for those resources, I'd be very interested to know what you'd like to cut in order for us to facilitate that. Going back to the issues that were raised around working with Gateshead, bit surprised by some of the reluctance. We are naturally aligned to Gateshead and have shared markets areas for housing and employment and travel to work areas. There's less alignment with other surrounding local authorities. We've worked on shared evidence to support our local plans for many years, and we've worked with Gateshead previously on the core strategy and urban core plan, and have developed joint policies. Recent consultation across both Newcastle and Gateshead as part of early consultation exercises has shown that Newcastle and Gateshead have similar issues to address, and I believe it's something like 40% of Gateshead residents access services in Newcastle. And as someone commented to me very, very recently, it's only politicians that recognise some of these boundaries, and I think we're creating false barriers here unnecessarily. So with that, Lord Mayor, I will ask Council again if they will accept the report. Thank you.
Councillor Kilgour doing my job for me. Does Council agree to accept, receive the report? We now move on to questions by members. Sorry? You what, sorry? Okay then, fair enough. So we're going to move to a vote then to agree the recommendations in the report. Okay, and remember what I said about voting so that we don't get any confusion. If you can't vote on the go vote, stand up and state your name and clearly state what your vote is. So we're now voting to receive the report, receive the recommendations in the report. I assume you're standing up to vote at the moment. I will actually ask people to stand when we've Can we just, yes, just have a bit of hush if we could. So anyone who hasn't been able to access the go vote, as I said, could you stand up and going from left to right across the council chamber and perhaps moving from back to front, state your name clearly and state how you're going to vote. Councillor Morrissey is abstaining on the vote. Councillor Mark Mitchell abstaining on the vote. We'll start from the back on this side. Councillor Mbemba is voting yes in favour. Councillor Cairns, yes. Councillor Mad, yes. And Councillor Ali, yes. Okay. So the vote as total, I apologise for my slight confusion there. We're obviously entering interesting times with votes at the moment, I can see. Sorry? Yeah, so the vote is 34 voting yes to receive the report, 7 voting against and 21 abstentions. So a council then agrees to receive the report. Thank you. Sorry? Agrees the recommendations in the report. Okay, we'll get there eventually. We now move on to item 9 on the agenda, which is questions that have been submitted for an oral reply. The questions are as put on the council papers, of course, so you don't need to repeat the question. And the first question is from Councillor Ferguson to be responded by Councillor Kilgour in relation to links with Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I want to make clear that I absolutely condemn human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia. Some of the incidents reported in the media are abhorrent, and I don't think anyone in this chamber, or indeed any resident in our city, would condone them. Last month, we proudly supported Black History Month. We held an exhibition in this very building and heard stories of black figures in our city's history who led the fight against slavery, discrimination and racism. Many of those stories are chilling reminders of historical exploitation. I find it abhorrent when I read reports of the same kind of exploitation of migrant workers and discrimination against minority communities in Saudi Arabia now in 2024. As I do when I read similar reports of such human rights abuses elsewhere in the world. Here in Newcastle, we pride ourselves on being a diverse, inclusive and tolerant city. We have always made clear that we expect all organisations based in Newcastle to share those important values. As a city of sanctuary, we share concerns about human rights abuse issues in countries across the world. We have a proud track record of providing homes to refugees who have fled persecution in their home countries so they can rebuild their lives here in Newcastle. However, I do believe that it's important to recognise it is primarily the role of government to take on the role of addressing those concerns at a national level. It is in Westminster where the influence lies to impact on domestic policy in Saudi Arabia, not here in Newcastle Civic Centre. I'm not aware what Councillor Ferguson is referring to when he talks about my predecessors seeking an audience with members of the Saudi government. We have enjoyed a long-standing relationship with Newcastle United, and the vast majority of contact with the current leadership team at the football club is between our officers and their chief executive officer, as is entirely appropriate. We have also had previous contact with Amanda Staveley, who is no longer at the club. Neither of them have any influence on Saudi Arabia policy makers. We've always made clear in the past that we do not think it is fair to blame those involved in the day-to-day management of Newcastle United with alleged human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia. It would not be appropriate for us to raise concerns around those human rights abuses with a CEO in charge of the day-to-day running of the football club. The club is a source of immense pride for supporters, and a successful Newcastle United can only be a good thing for our residents and the wider city region. However, many Newcastle United fans point out that other companies with ties to countries guilty of human rights abuses are not subject to the same levels of scrutiny, which they should be. Equally, they find themselves being accused of being in some way responsible for human rights abuses when successive governments have promoted trade relations with the likes of Saudi Arabia for a considerable period of time. Like local authorities across the country, we will always look at opportunities to drive investment and growth to benefit all of our residents. Newcastle is not alone in this, and officers have attended international investment conferences. International investment creates jobs, opportunities and boosts the city's economy, and that ultimately puts money in the pockets of all of our residents. However, I agree that we need to do this responsibly.
Councillor Kilgour, can we start to wind up, please?
We are developing an international strategy, and it is through those conversations with government and our international trade partners where we can raise concerns around alleged human rights abuses.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ferguson, supplemental question.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I would absolutely agree with the Leader's comments in relation to those responsible for the day-to-day running of Newcastle United Football Club. And as you would note in the wording of the question, the football club wasn't mentioned at all. I was instead looking at external investors like the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. Perhaps if I could come at the question from a slightly different direction to gain some further clarity on what I think is quite an important matter for the city. Given the current political instability that we're experiencing here in Newcastle and the fact that the overall control of the council has changed, is the leader concerned that Newcastle will not look like as an attractive investment prospect for any external investors for the foreseeable future?
Councillor Kilgour.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I think that's a tremendous piece of politics there that you managed to shoehorn in a completely different question as a supplemental question to something about the football club and its owners. No, I'm not concerned. We have a stable administration. We continue to be, and we continue to be,
quiet, please. Quiet,
we continue to be an attractive proposition for investors because people can see what this city has to offer, what the region has to offer, what our residents have to offer to anybody who wants to invest in this city. It would help, of course, if you didn't try and make those little political points to try and destabilise when there isn't actually an issue there in the first place. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I do have a supplemental from Councillor Walker. Councillor Walker, yes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think there's a bit of confusion about conversations that's been had around funding. The Tyne Bridge, as an example. Could the leader clarify on this for me, please?
Can I respond, Lord Mayor? Can I respond?
Sorry?
Can I respond?
Oh, yes.
Thank
I will invite you to respond.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I think there is a bit of confusion. And I think you're referring to conversations with Amanda Staveley, who was in charge of daily operations at the club prior to the arrival of Darren Eales as CEO. And as Councillor Ferguson and others are aware, Mrs Staveley is no longer at the club and is not a member of the Saudi government.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilgour. I don't have any further supplementals. Councillor Stone, could you go to a microphone, please? I don't have you listed as a...
We're raising a point of clarification. Can I just make it clear that the question...
Are you posing a question, Councillor Stone?
I think that Councillor Kilgour may have inadvertently misled Council, so I wanted to just pull her up on that point.
Well, you can't be pulling her up. Perhaps you can address your comments to me.
Well,
that you feel that if you can address your comment to me, and I will seek guidance from our legal advisor.
Could I just indicate then to the Lord Mayor that I think that there is perhaps some attempt to sort of produce a response there on that particular point. I think that the question was about...
Can you state the particular issue where you feel that Councillor Kilgour is misleading Council?
has indicated that she thinks that the question is about Amanda Staveley, when it is not. It is talking about the instances which have been reported in a number of publications whereby it has been revealed through freedom of information disclosures that this council, in the form of its previous leaders and its chief executives, have actively sought to engage with the Saudi public investment.
Yes, I think you're trying to put your point of view across, Councillor Stone, but I don't. But I haven't. Councillor Stone, can you return to your seat? Councillor Kilgour was simply asking the questions in the way that she felt was appropriate, and I don't think there's any attempt to either mislead or misrepresent. Okay. We'll now move on to... Thank you, Councillor Kilgour. Thank you. We'll now move on to question 2, which is the question as put by Councillor Lovett to be responded to, and it's not Councillor Frew, it's Councillor Hay, isn't it, by the look of it, because I've got Councillor Frew in my papers.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Lovett for his question. I'm going to respond on behalf of Councillor Frew, who is unable to be here this evening. We have been proactively working with Your Homes Newcastle prior to the transfer of the contact centre to the City Council. To address our concerns about the customer experience, we have put in place an ongoing programme of improvements. We know from feedback from residents that their experience when making requests for services can be frustrating and disjointed. We have implemented an improvement plan. The contact centre have carried out some exercise with industry experts, which have led to improvements in training, systems and processes. Between August and October 2023, the average wait time for Your Local Services calls was 11 minutes and 3 seconds. with some residents waiting significantly longer. For the same period this year, the average wait time was down to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. The improvement plan is helping to improve the contact centre's performance. It has not, however, addressed wider issues with our customer contact model, and we are putting plans in place to ensure that any improvements are sustainable. We want to make sure that our customer experience is excellent, no matter what channel people choose to contact us through. And if they take the time to tell us about a problem or make a service request, we're clear about the outcomes they can expect. Where possible, we want to make sure that customers are kept up to date about their service requests via emails or texts for those who want to receive them. We are reviewing the service standards for when jobs should be closed or updated, and to be clear with customers when they report an issue that something will be done about it and when they can expect a response. We're making sure that the customer experience and residents' access to services are at the heart of everything we do. To do this, we will introduce a new customer commitment, which will detail how anybody contacting the council should be expected to be treated. This collective work will improve customer experience, and closer scrutiny of our customer-related performance would deliver a more consistent, reliable and sustainable operating model. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Councillor Lovett, supplemental.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for the response. Does Council realise that online reporting shuts out a significant amount of residents, which include those who have disabilities? And did you know that the North East Ambulance Service, Durham County Council, North Tyneside Council and Northumberland Council offer a sign video for service for deaf residents? Why doesn't Newcastle City Council have this service available?
Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Lovett for that follow-up question. I will take that suggestion back to officers who can provide a more detailed response as to why we don't offer that service, but we are clear that we want residents across the city to be able to contact us in a way that they can access the services we have to offer. So I will feed that back and I will get back to you with a response.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. I'm able to take two supplementals. First of all, Councillor Barnett, a supplemental, and then followed by Councillor Peter Allen. But we'll take the questions one at a time, question and response one at a time.
Residents have suggested a separate phone number for local services. Can or will this be implemented?
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. We want people calling the council to be channelled to the right people and the services for those who can answer the questions. But providing a plethora of numbers could be confusing and could cause concern. And so we are committed to improving the service we have, not introducing additional telephone numbers. But thank you for the suggestion.
And finally, Councillor Peter Allen.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've been a councillor for only 7 weeks, as a little bit of a context. In that time, I've received numerous calls from residents who have been unable to get through to the council to report problems. The latest I had yesterday was someone who spent 20 minutes on the telephone, got nowhere, and therefore called his local councillor to get something done. I resolved the problem that day. The question I've got is, how long do we have to wait? You're saying the service is improving. That evidence doesn't seem to be apparent to me. I work on a very simple statistical model. 1 is an event, 2 might be a coincidence, 3 is a trend. And the trend I see over the last 7 weeks is things are getting worse, not getting better.
Councillor Hay, I think there's a question in there somewhere.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. I want to place on record my thanks to the officers who work in the service centre. They have a very difficult job, and councillors across this chamber should show them the respect they deserve. Between August and October 2023, as I said in the initial response, the average wait time for your local services calls was 11 minutes and 3 seconds. For the same period this year, the average wait time is down to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I will take your feedback back to the officers and discuss those days in question but it is important that we recognise improvements are happening.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hay. Thank you very much, and thank you, Councillor Allen. The third question, we'll move on to
I hadn't actually finished responding to the question.
Oh, sorry.
Actually. Sorry, Lord Mayor.
Well, you were kind of looking across at me as if you would...
No, I was responding to the laugh from the opposition members.
All right.
There is an improvement ongoing.
Okay.
Officers are working incredibly hard. And if any members of the chamber want to contact me with their casework, I will do what I can to help. But any resident of Kingston Park South and Newbiggin Hall who contacts me will have my full support. Your residents should expect the same, and expecting residents not to contact their council and their councillors is outrageous.
Can we just wind it up, please? Okay. Yeah, just, well, Councillor Allen, Councillor Allen, at the start of the meeting, I gave clear instructions about going to a microphone and Councillor Allen, and in a reasonable manner that shows respect for other elected members to make your point, okay? Okay. You are an experienced member of council. You've been on the council for many, many years, and you know about the way that we behave in this council chamber because members of the public are watching us. So although emotions run high, let's try and behave in an acceptable manner. So if you'd like to make your point.
Lord Mayor, the question I was asking was, in the last 7 weeks, I have repeated calls from and contacts with my constituents because they have not been able to get through either on the computer system or by telephone. I've been able to resolve those problems. I take great exception to anyone who says that I don't act on behalf of my residents.
Okay, Councillor Allen, thank you. You've made your point.
The question I have is...
Well, we're not going to return to the question. You've made your point, but you aren't happy with the response,
but
okay?
If things are taking 20 minutes, how does
All right,
that align
okay.
with 2 minutes?
Right, Councillor Allen, you've made your point. Thank you very much indeed. So we're not going to return to the question. So if I can now go to Councillor Kane, the question is as put in the council papers, and Councillor Hay, if you'd like to respond.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The Cabinet and Council are committed to implementing our waste strategy. We want Newcastle to be a clean, green and sustainable city that wastes less and recycles more. Even when people recycle more, there remains an element of residual waste which must be treated. In October 2019, the Cabinet agreed a strategic approach to the management of residual waste, and we agreed to partner with nearby local authorities to procure a waste treatment solution. The Tees Valley Energy Recovery Facility is a critical piece of infrastructure, serving more than 1.5 million local people, securing a local, reliable and affordable treatment solution for their residual waste. It will assist us in our goal of sending zero waste to landfill while allowing us to continue to fulfil our statutory duty to treat residual waste in a sanitary, sustainable and affordable manner. The business case which underpins the procurement of the TVERF is based on the partner councils significantly increasing their recycling rates. Even with the most ambitious future local recycling scenarios, there will still be residual waste which needs to be treated. The TVRF will treat this waste instead of sending it to landfill. The facility has been sized to take account of increases in population, increases in recycling rates, and consequent reductions in residual waste for the population it serves. We provide multiple recycling opportunities for residents to recycle, for example, curbside recycling, pop-up recycling centres and bulky article collections. We also provide a free bookable curbside collection service to collect small waste electrical items. Our plastic bag and wrapping collections have recently been expanded to 25% of the city. 5,300 properties in the city are receiving a weekly food collection service, and this will be expanded to the whole city in 2026. Our education and engagement team perform a vital function, explaining the need to recycle and for residents to get the right waste to the right place. We need everybody in the city to play their part, to think about what they buy, to reuse items and to maximise the recycling, to minimise what becomes residual waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Councillor Kane, a supplemental question.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Given the fragile state of the ruling group, how is the Cabinet member going to ensure that they don't lock future administrations into an unsustainable waste contract as their predecessors did pre-2004?
I think Councillor Kilgour responded to the question articulately before, that we are a solid administration working for the residents across Newcastle. Next.
Okay. I have two supplementals. I see that Councillor Taylor's already at the microphone. I have got your name, Councillor Taylor, but I've got Councillor Robinson to ask a supplemental first.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Recent press stated that some of the plastic bags collected by the supermarkets ended up going to energy from waste. Is that the case for the Flex Collect plastic bags and wrapping collected across the city by the council using survival bags?
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. No, all of the material collected will be sent for reprocessing. Thank you.
Short and to the point. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. You've already said that we're going to be collecting thin plastics from a large amount of the population. I understand that's going to be mandatory in the future, as is food waste collection. We're already collecting cardboard, cans, plastic, paper. What exactly is going to go to this incinerator? And do you not accept the fact that recent reports have shown that incineration is simply not compatible with net zero? There have been numerous reports about this. It is not a sustainable measure, and that was what was included by the Tark and Finish group scrutiny set up just about a year ago.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. In relation to your first question, I will get the information to you. I am still being fully briefed on the new role that I hold, but I will ensure that that is sent across to members and to ensure that you receive the response. In relation to the second part of the question, I haven't seen the Task and Finish group reports, but I'll ask officers to dig those out for me so I can have a read, and I'll come back with a response to that second question as well, and I'll copy all members in so they can receive it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hay. You finished now? Yes? Right. The responses to the three questions marked for written reply are included on the supplemental agenda that you will received and are published on the council website, of course. We now move to item 10A, first of the portfolio reports on the growing city. Can I remind members that we have 25 minutes for this item, and I've got quite a lot of questions as well, so if we can try to keep it concise as possible. Councillor Story.
Lord Mayor, Council. I'm delighted to present my second annual portfolio report to Council. Mine is a hugely important portfolio, and it's one that makes a positive difference to the lives of babies, children and young people in this city, and it contributes towards the future success of our city. Children and young people are so very important to our society. They will grow up to be our future leaders, our scientists, our builders, parents of future generations, our carers, and we need to invest in them. It is shameful that the exact opposite has happened over the past 14 years, and perhaps no section of our society has borne the bigger impact of forced austerity and the pandemic than our children. The recent Child of the North report outlines how the pandemic exacerbated existing inequalities, preventable poor health, obesity, tooth decay, mental illness have soared, and we are seeing record numbers of children and young people who need help with anxiety and depression. Poverty is a leading driver of inequalities, and it can lead to lifelong harms. In short, our children have been the least protected. And there can be no doubt that the challenges facing our children and families are severe. We have 33% child poverty. This is unacceptably high. We are seeing rising numbers of domestic abuse-related crime, and the nationally recognised child and mental health crisis shows no signs of improving. And we've heard very eloquently and very powerfully tonight that for many of our children and young people, they feel that they cannot attend school. 14 years of austerity has meant that funding for councils like ours just simply hasn't kept pace with the need and demand for services. We see this particularly in SEND services and in our children and social care. It's a grim picture I'm painting, however, there is hope. Despite these challenges, staff from this council and city partners have worked tirelessly over the last year and have achieved some notable successes that we should all be proud of. And I'm really pleased to be able to share these in my annual report. These include the continued development of the Holiday Activity and Food Programme. It's now in its 7th year, and we had 10,300 attendances in the last year. Our family and children's hubs and Start for Life programmes go from strength to strength, and this means that there are now 66 new services available to our communities. The take-up of childcare for eligible 2-year-olds is currently at 89.9%, and I'm very proud of this. The staff in that department do an amazing job, and we're 15% above the national average. Early years support and childcare are critically important to babies and children. The speed at which human beings learn in their childhood years is vastly different to the speed that they learn in later life. And that's why getting the foundations right is so important. In Newcastle, we know that this is essential, and we are working hard to make sure that we do all that we can to give babies and toddlers the best start in life. And you've heard tonight that we are very committed to hearing the voices of children and young people and ensuring, that we have our Youth Council and Parliament, and that is going from strength to strength. We take a very proactive approach to reducing the numbers of children in care and making being in care a better experience for those children who do come to us. And as a result of that, we are seeing some falling numbers in children in care. We are also seeing some provisional, really good results in terms of exam results. And, the proportion of pupils achieving the expected standard in reading, writing and mathematics at age 11 was at 62%, which is slightly above the national average. The factors that contribute to a child and young person feeling happy, safe and healthy and ambitious for their future are diverse, and I would like to thank the staff from across this council and other city partners for the work they do day in, day out to support our youngest residents. And I would also like to thank every single councillor in this room for unanimously supporting the motion that I brought last month around making being a care leaver a protected characteristic. I'm so grateful to you all for that. I'm going to leave it there because it's important that you have time to ask me questions, and I will do my very, very best to answer them. I'm just going to get my notebook. I've forgotten to bring it, Lord Mayor. Yeah. And if people could ask me questions in one round, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got 10 questions altogether, so I'll give you a chance to collect yourself there. The first 2 questions I'll go are for Councillor Mains and Councillor Christine Morrissey, if you'd like to make your way to the microphones.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Story. Being a corporate parent is something that I've always been very proud of, and it's something that we all share in this chamber. On Monday, I was very lucky to be at the launch of the Every Christmas Appeal at the Civic. So I would like to ask if you could just outline to members how more they can get involved in this project and to ensure that the children in our city have the best Christmas possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morrissey, to be followed by Councillor Hartley.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Story, thank you for the interesting report. And many thanks to all the staff who work within Children's Services and Education and our partners. As the report outlines, the Family Hubs and Start of Life programme funding comes to an end in March. Now that the government has produced its budget, can Councillor Story tell us what she will do to ensure the continuation of these essential services? And how quickly can auto-enrolment be rolled out for eligible pupils to get free school meals? Thank you.
Very much, Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Hartley, followed by Councillor Cairns.
Thank you for the report, Councillor Story. It's really good to see lots of important work going on supporting our city's young people, not least with the Healthy Child programme. The Green Party recently passed policy based on up-to-date public health advice for preventing COVID and respiratory viruses in the population, a problem that we know is particularly challenging in schools. Would Councillor Story be happy for me to share this information with the Cabinet and the public health team? And would she commit to working with us to explore how to implement clean air measures in classrooms and keep our children safe this winter?
Thank you very much, Councillor Hartley. Councillor Cairns, followed by Councillor Coles.
There was additional SEND funding allocated in the recent budget as part of increasing school funds. I'm interested in knowing what difference you see it making to alleviate cost pressures for the council.
Councillor Coles, followed by Councillor Ellis.
Thanks very much for the report, Councillor Story. Just in line with the council's stated aim of reaching net zero, the preamble of the report itself, and what we heard earlier tonight from the Youth Council, do you think we might get a second version of the report that might expand on the issues of climate change, as the version we got only has a couple of small paragraphs at the end? And much like Councillor Hartley, be very happy to help out with it.
Councillor Ellis, followed by Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Story, for this report. It was brilliant to hear the young people of the Youth Council tonight. So what I'd like to know is, from your point of view, Councillor Story, what difference is the Youth Council making to young people's lives in our city?
Councillor Taylor, followed by Councillor Nabila Ali.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you for the report, Councillor Story, and for the helpful discussion at scrutiny. I was rather horrified to see that we're estimating that there are 5,000 young carers in the city. Can I ask what the council does to try and identify young carers, and what are we doing to try and support them?
Councillor Ali, followed by Councillor Walker.
Thank you very much for this great report. I'd like to ask you, in your speech you talked about why supporting babies and toddlers is so important, and what more we can do in this relation. Thank you.
Councillor Walker, followed by, finally, by Councillor Chisholm.
I'd like to just thank the Cabinet member and the officers for that report this evening. It was very good. But my question is on one of the pages, and there was, and given the pressures on secondary school places, and given the issues we faced earlier this year with allocations, I'm very pleased to see the new sites for Calton Academy and Grey Park Academy are due to complete in the summer. However, given there have been delays with both of these sites previously, are there any assurances you can give to members that the building contractors understand the need for completion on time, and what measures may be put in place to ensure this?
Thank you, Councillor Walker. And finally, Councillor Chisholm. I think you have the microphone there, Councillor Chisholm. Yes?
Yes, I have. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Story, for that report. And I'd like to thank you and applaud the priority and expertise that you yourself have ensured that the Council applies to our services for survivors of domestic abuse. And I'd like to ask, I know that those services are particularly good, I think, in Newcastle, but also there are some funding pressures on the horizon. So I'd like to ask you about those. Are you concerned both about the services that are funded by the Council, but those are funded by other organisations as well? And can you tell us what is being done to protect those services?
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. I don't know if you've captured all that, Councillor Story. You have just over 10 minutes anyway to respond as best you can.
Thank you very much. I think I've got a lot of it, and I do apologise if I haven't, and I will get back to you on that. I'm going to go to the last question that was asked first, which was about domestic abuse services. We are in the White Ribbon Month, and I think it's appropriate to spend some time looking at that. Violence against women and girls is quite rightly, as Councillor Chisholm pointed out, in my portfolio. And one of the things that I would like to say there is I'm incredibly pleased and proud that the new Labour government has made its mission to halve violence against women and girls by 50% in the next 10 years. That's an incredibly ambitious mission, and that will not happen without more funding being allocated to councils and also to police and crime commissioners, police forces and the health services. In Newcastle, our services are largely delivered by our amazing voluntary and community sector. They are our partners, and for every penny that we give to them, they bring money into this city for victims, and it's incredibly important that we recognise that and their expertise. In short, Councillor Chisholm, yes, I am concerned. We are seeing a huge increase in the volume of domestic abuse. We are also seeing complexity is really increasing, and we are increasingly more aware of the impact of children and young people who witness and experience domestic abuse. So for me, that is a huge concern. We don't know yet what the funding envelope is likely to be, but I will give guarantees and assurances that I certainly, as a member of the Labour Party, will be holding the party to its feet to the fire to make sure that they deliver on that ambition. And we will also be working with local services to find out more from them about what funding they need. And as soon as we hear the announcements, I'll certainly be letting people know. The next question, I think, came from Councillor Walker, which was about the schools in Great Park and Callerton Academies, and some assurances were needed there around, are those new schools on track? Council is probably aware that the schools that are being built are not being built by us as a local authority, they're DFE projects, but I want to give assurances that education officers are meeting very regularly with the project leads to track and progress the new buildings and to manage any risks or issues. Both construction projects are now progressing well. They're on track, and I'm told that they are on track for delivery in July 25. Updates are reported to the Director of Children and Family Services regularly, and she raises any wider off-site issues, such as the delivery of associated infrastructure, plane pictures, park and ride and improvements. I would say that it has been incredibly challenging for all large-scale capital projects since COVID, but the reassurances that I've been given are they are very much now on track, and I will bring more reports back on that. I was asked a question about what more can we do to support babies and toddlers and children. And this is something that I feel incredibly passionate about. Babies are incredibly important and all too often get overlooked. And that is quite obviously because they can't speak for themselves, so we must be their voices. In Newcastle, we are advocates of the principles of 1,001 days, and we firmly recognise that that time from being a baby to being a toddler is very, very important. I can let you know that next week we will be having an amazing conference where we will be launching, more work for families, for children and for professionals to really skill them up to recognise the needs of babies and young children. I was asked a question about what difference the Youth Council is making, and I think we saw it was just brought alive tonight really from those presentations from the children and young people who were involved. The difference that is making is it is giving hope, it is empowering children and young people, it is giving them confidence, it is giving them aspirations, but more importantly, I think quite a few of you in the chamber picked up on this, we are learning from them. So the value of that is just absolutely immense. I was asked a question about, a question about a recent report around COVID in schools. Can you share that report with me and work with me on that? Absolutely. One of the things that you've probably seen about the way that I work is, yes, I'm a Labour councillor, but I believe there are some issues that transcend party political. You know, violence against women and girls is one of them, climate change being another one. It's absolutely crucial and critical that we work together as councillors right the way across the political spectrum, and I'd be very, very happy to do that. Similarly, the comments around net zero, it is not something that I have an in-depth knowledge or specialism in. Yes, I'm absolutely willing to learn and take that on board. What else? Sorry about that. Christmas appeal, the every appeal. This is hugely important to us because what it means is that every single child and young person who is in our care and that you're the corporate parent of, gets to have a meaningful Christmas, gets to have a gift that is chosen by them, for them, and gets to feel wanted, nurtured and important. And that's something that every single one of you in this chamber can do. We can send you all out directly information about that. There's a list where children and young people have gone on that and they've indicated some of the things that they would like. And so you can get directly involved in that. We always have a Christmas tree in, you know, out in the hallway. You can take your gift along to that, but any doubts about it, then we'll get some information sent out to you because it's incredibly important that we take our responsibilities as corporate parents very, very seriously and we make sure that we deliver on that. I was asked a question about the family hubs, which are very important, and what will happen post-March next year when we know that we haven't got any further funding. That's something that I'm currently looking at, and I'm really sorry to say, and this did come up at scrutiny, and I was very honest at scrutiny, and I said, right now, we do not know if we are going to have additional funding for that or how we're going to be able to do that. And that remains. But leave that with me, and it is something that I'm exploring. Right, what else? I was asked a question about young carers. We do support a carers organisation in Newcastle, and they do have young carers groups, and I will get back to you, Councillor Taylor, about what more in-depth work we do and how the council actually supports young carers. I was asked a question about auto-enrolment of free school meals. I do not have the exact date yet. At the moment, we are working with every school in Newcastle to get them on board around this, to look at what impact that might have for them. An announcement will come very soon, but we are talking, you know, going into 2025, we will be delivering on auto-enrolment around free school meals. We've seen the difference that it's made in other cities. We know that it can make a difference here, so that is a commitment that we will absolutely be delivering on. I think Councillor Cairns asked me a question which I think, just a second, I think it was around the recent budget announcement of funding for SEND and the high needs block. I welcome the recent announcement in the budget, but as the report makes it very, very clear, this is a critical situation. We are increasingly seeing more children and young people who do have need of SEND services, and the budget is not commensurate to the needs that we are seeing. So whilst I welcome it, it is not nearly enough, and it is certainly something that, again, I will be lobbying on. I believe I might have answered all the questions, unless, is there anyone whose question I didn't answer?
Please don't invite further questions. That's wonderful. Within 25 minutes, thanks everybody for being so concise, and thanks for your response, Councillor Story. I've just been reminded as well that possibly Councillor Nabil Ali's intervention was your maiden speech. Was it? Yes. So can we just acknowledge that in the usual way, please? And if we move on to the second portfolio report, which is the report on our thriving city, and I call on Councillor Greenough to do his maiden cabinet report, I think. So.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm excited to be taking on the new role of Cabinet Member for Economy, Jobs and Skills. Obviously, the report is from the Thriving City report under the previous title. The report highlights the fantastic work that officers, alongside Council here, have achieved in the past year, working with our residents, businesses, to drive forward inclusive, sustainable growth for all of our city. The past year, there have been significant challenges, whether it's the ongoing cost of living crisis or shifts in public funding, but there's also been great opportunities with the creation of the North East Combined Authority, the election of our first North East Mayor, and the general election with the election of the Labour Government. The report sets out how, through collaboration, innovation and a shared commitment to making Newcastle a place where everyone can thrive, we have made tremendous progress, but we know that there is more to do. There's some key achievements highlighted in the report, from the creation of a vibrant cultural quarter to attracting global business and providing crucial support to our residents in need, as well as expanding digital inclusion. The initiatives implemented reflect our vision of a city where opportunity is accessible to all and where economic growth is matched by social impact. Our work is transforming Newcastle City Centre, bolstering inward investment and fostering an inclusive employment landscape. It is a testament to our community's resilience and ambition. Looking ahead, we remain focused on addressing the challenges faced by our city by delivering high-quality services and ensuring that every resident, no matter their background, location in the city, can benefit from the opportunities we're creating. At the beginning of the year, there were some clear priority areas identified to help address some of the specific challenges. They were to promote and enhance our post-16 offer, to continue to transform Eldon Square, to lead and oversee the development of digital inclusion services, and to promote and enhance the welfare rights offer. The report details how we've taken significant steps forward in delivering against these priorities for the benefit of all our residents, and how we are working closely as part of the newly formed North East Combined Authority to ensure programmes and interventions are directed towards those who need it the most. We continue to work hard to ensure that the cost of living crisis felt by so many is addressed through meaningful programmes of support, as well as the creation of good quality jobs and pathways into employment. We have seen success in attracting new companies into our city, as well as supporting existing businesses to expand. Invest Newcastle has supported a total of 29 new businesses opening sites in our city and creating 793 new jobs, with a further 939 created by the expansion of 23 companies who have expanded their existing footprint in the city. A little bit addressing what Councillor Ferguson mentioned earlier, this is showing that Newcastle is a place where businesses can thrive, scale and want to invest. Only last week, we were delighted that 50 million of investment was announced by Accord in their Fordham site, with 50 new good quality jobs. This is a project that the team has worked hard to help secure, and I was delighted to see that it was one of the first projects visited by the Chancellor following the announcement of her budget. Our region continues to top the charts with more inward investment, job creation per capita than any other region outside London, and that is surely good news for our residents. Many of you will have seen the Creative Central Newcastle progress, whether that's from the 4th Lane murals to Maximo Park's surprise concert in Granger Market. Over 1,200 people in the creative sector have already benefited from the support offered through the programme. And the High Street project is really coming into life, with 25 businesses already benefiting from our Green Street initiative. Next week, I'm looking forward to joining the Illuminating Biker event on Shields Road and seeing the whole series of events that we've got over the autumn and winter. And I'm pleased to see this project is being expanded onto Adelaide Terrace too. Work and Thrive Newcastle, launched earlier this year as part of a new brand for our Skills Hub, is providing a one-stop shop for job seekers to access one-to-one tailored support and help. And Newcastle City Learning has supported over 2,100 residents in delivering a wide range of training courses. In March, we officially became a Living Wage City, and I know that's something that's especially important to celebrate during Living Wage Week. Welfare Rights continues to play a vital service supporting residents, and last year it supported over 7,500 and helped to secure 14.5 million in gains for our residents. But being new in the role, I see this report as not only a record of our progress, but a roadmap to the future, a future where Newcastle continues to grow as a city that is prosperous, inclusive and connected. So, if I can, Lord Mayor...
well, just wind it up, because I've got a number of questions.
That's fine, Lord Mayor. So, I just want to thank Council here for his work in this.
Very quickly.
And the officers for everything they've done. And I'll wait to answer some questions, Lord Mayor.
Okay. It's your first time, so I'll give you a little bit of leeway on it. We've now got 8 questions, and bearing in mind that we were very good on the last report, we kept well within 25 minutes, so we'll go through 8 questions. Are you quite happy, Councillor Greenough, to take all the 8 questions together and then just make a few notes?
Yeah, I'll do it. Take them all together.
Okay.
And,
So the first 2 questions then are Councillor Phillipson, followed by Councillor Cookson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Greenough, for a very detailed report. Lord Mayor, helping our residents to secure employment and gain the necessary skills to move into better paid and skilled jobs is crucial for the city's economy. Could I ask the Cabinet Member to explain what work the Council is doing to support our residents in the city into employment and to help them gain the crucial skills they and our local economy need?
Thank you, Councillor Phillipson. Councillor Cookson, followed by Councillor Qureshi.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. May I congratulate Councillor Greenough on his appointment. I'm delighted to see the report mention the £20 million investment in Northumberland Street, which I welcome. However, the Council has just delivered Savile Row, where it promised magical gardens, incidental play and fantastic lighting, and Ridley Place, where it promised a pedestrian-dominated destination, the place for markets and pop-up retail. I'd really encourage the Cabinet Member to reflect on whether those objectives have been delivered. So my question is, how will the newly installed Cabinet Member reassure residents that the investment on Northumberland Street will deliver the once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver the change needed to keep our key shopping areas vibrant and viable in light of the changing shopping habits, particularly when, to the best of my knowledge, there are no plans available to the public. There aren't even any plans in the engagement centre on Ridley Place.
Thank you, Councillor Cookson. Councillor Qureshi, followed by Councillor Avai.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The report highlights the East End High Street programme, which is really welcome, especially on Shields Road and Welbeck Road in the Biker Ward. Can I ask the Cabinet Member how we build on this work going forward and embed some of the successful aspects of it in terms of events and programmes for future years, and also in how we look to build local networks in our high street communities?
Thank you, Councillor Avai, followed by Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As highlighted in the Cabinet Member's report, Newcastle has seen some success in attracting investment and creating high-quality jobs. However, given the threat of national cuts to research and development funding, does the Cabinet Member share concerns about how these might impact our ability to sustain this progress? Specifically, could these cuts hinder job growth in Newcastle, particularly as a major university city and key centre for research and innovation? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, followed by Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Greenough, for a report. And you've already mentioned about it being this week is Living Wage Week. So I'm just wondering, how is the Council promoting the living wage and encouraging more employers in our city to pay the real living wage? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Patterson, followed by Councillor Penny Evans.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Gunner, for a very professional report. Newcastle residents lose millions each year due to not receiving money they are entitled to. This is money that should be in our local communities and supporting local families. What programmes do our Welfare Rights Service have to encourage take-up, and what have the results shown across the city? Thank you.
Councillor Penny Evans, finally followed by Councillor Barry Stanners.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Greenhoff, on your excellent introduction to this report. As we are in our, now the nights are getting darker, and we're coming up to the festive period where we have great entertainment in our city and our nighttime economy. I was just wondering if you could explain a little bit of your work that's happening around taxi licensing and how you're making sure that it's safe for people to get home during this holiday season.
And Councillor Barrow-Stanners.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Greenhoff, for bringing this report, and congratulations on your new role. Like me, I know you are a proud cooperator, and it is an area which is really important, particularly as the new Labour government has been elected on a pledge to double the size of the cooperative sector across the United Kingdom. If the government's going to achieve this, they're going to need the support of local government. And I was just wondering if you could let me know what plans you've got to help promote and expand the cooperative sector in Newcastle. Thank you.
Councillor Greenhoff. And you do have the best part of 15 minutes, actually, because people have been very concise with their questions.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I'll try and get back to everyone I can, giving a response tonight, or if not, I'll follow that up in writing. I have massively mixed up my papers here, so apologies if I don't do it in the questions in the way people ask them. So firstly, we had Councillor Phillipson, who asked a question in relation to, sorry, just let me get it right. It was employment services and how we support people. So at a time when many councils have found cuts to these services, it shows our commitment to our inclusive economy and tackling poverty that we continue to offer support to our residents and businesses to help them secure employment and training. This support includes the Inclusive Employment Team, which focus on supporting Newcastle residents to access and progress in good quality work, targeting support for people in places that need it most, such as young people, those who might have a health or disability barrier to getting into work, and people who have English language barriers as well as people in low-paid, insecure employment to try and help them grow and sustain into more secure, better-paid employment. The team also worked with employers to encourage them to open recruitment opportunities up and offer good employment, including becoming a real wage employer. And this includes making use of the planning powers we have and social value within procurement to secure employment and skill benefits for the city. It was before I was in role, but I know there was an excellent jobs fair at the Newcastle Civic Centre, I believe, as well, and I know that was a huge success. Councillor Cookson, you asked about Northumberland Street. And sorry, I just took a message on my phone, so I'm just making sure I've got this down. So just in relation to that, we're working with businesses and residents to ensure Northumberland Street is a success. And I think we all want to see it being a success. It should be a success for our city. It's an iconic area. And there are plans displayed along the street. There have been significant amounts of engagement, but I'm happy to have a chat with you about what more we can do and how we might improve that, because I think it's really important that it is a success and it will benefit the entire city when it is, I should say, sorry. In relation to Councillor Qureshi, who asked about the East End High Streets, obviously I mentioned that in the report. I think it's really important that we see some lasting benefits going as part of this. So obviously it's a new place-based approach to neighbourhood renewal, working to create inclusive, healthy and vibrant high streets. I've been informed from officers that feedback from local residents, businesses, schools, community organisations has helped to identify the key priorities for each high street in the programme, and this will inform the type and level of support that we can put in place. The project's helped to create and safeguard local jobs, bring new businesses into the area through using empty property grant schemes, and has led to improvements in the public realm. The project can be a catalyst, and this is where it's really important, the project can be a catalyst for change by building community-based partnerships and a shared vision for delivering improvements, and we hope that can unlock further investment. And the overarching objective of the project is to develop a long-term vision and plan for the areas. So the next one, I believe, was Councillor Robinson, and I've just lost... Sorry, Jackie, can you just remind me what it was on? The living wage, sorry, living wage, yes. Sorry, apologies, 1 second. Again, I've got my notes all over the place. Yep, So obviously, a lot of credit, I have to say, goes to Councillor Frew as well, part of this, and to the officers who work to help us get the accreditation. As I say, this week is Living Wage Week, and the Council have been promoting our efforts and the efforts of employers in the city to greater take up the living wage, and I've seen that on social media as well. The action plan put in place to create a Living Wage Newcastle set ambitious targets to build momentum, and there's already been great progress. The City welcomed its 100th accredited employer, headquartered in Newcastle in March, and we have an ambitious target to make sure that there are 75,000 employees as part of a real living wage employer, and we're making good progress towards that, and I think that's really something to welcome and of benefit. Councillor Avayi, inward investment into Newcastle. I mean, I think, and R&D funding, as well. I mean, I think one of the biggest things to say on that in terms of the Labour government is we just announced 50 million into a project in the city. I think that's a really positive sign in Accord Healthcare, and the Labour government, it was a visit, one of the first visits from the Chancellor following the budget. I think that shows the direction of travel. I think it's really important, and the message coming out of government is investment is key, and that's what we're hoping to go for and achieve. After that we had George, who asked me about welfare rights. The Welfare Rights Service, obviously it's vital in supporting residents and maximising income, especially for some of our most vulnerable. Last year, the service helped, as I mentioned in the report, 7,500 residents and helped to secure 14.5 million financial gain. And in the first 2 quarters of this year, we've seen 3,500 residents securing 7 million. The specific projects working on, alongside organisations like Macmillan, working with schools on child poverty, and also in relation to pension credit uptake, which we all know is important. The Council have identified 634 residents who we believe through checks within revenue benefits may be entitled to pension credit, and we've written out to them to try and encourage that take up. Now, obviously, there is a lag between us right now, and that may be being processed and going through, so we don't have the information for that, but I'd be happy to provide that to Council at a later stage to see how successful that project has been. On taxes, I mean, Councillor Penny Evans obviously is completely right on this. The safety of everyone in Newcastle is a priority, and the taxis play an important part of that. It's a unique role. The move to a clear and distinctive fleet of Hackney carriages is about ensuring that the public can recognise and trust those taxis, and they are now easily recognisable. The unique branding helps to reassure people that the driver and the vehicle meet the highest standards, and that this will help people to get home safely, which is imperative all year round, but also especially, obviously, we know at Christmas when there's more people going out, etc., and also the darker nights. The approach supports our effort to identify and stop unlicensed drivers plying for trade and potentially preying on vulnerable people on a night out. There's recently been social media and media coverage on this, including on our own social media channels, because we've been coming up to the 1-year deadline, and I hope this will further raise that awareness. In the past year, there have been over 1,500 roadside checks undertaken, largely during the evening and early hours of the morning, with further work planned in the lead up to Christmas, and obviously that will be alongside colleagues in the police. Councillor Barry Standers asked me about the cooperatives. You may notice I've got the little cooperative B badge on, as I always do at Council, as a Labour and cooperative councillor. And I completely agree, supporting the cooperative sector's vital, and I really welcome his role as a cooperative champion in this area. There's a few things that we have done to support them. So the local community partnership project funded through the Shared Prosperity Fund have offered grant funding to local CICs and CIOs, which has supported over £390,000 worth of funding. There's more we can do, and BPIC, I'm learning there's a lot of acronyms in my new role, which is the Business and IP Centre, which is part of the wider combined authority as well, has experts in residence that include not-for-profit and purpose-led business consultants who provide a range of support services to those wishing to set up in the sector, including cooperatives, as well as a social and enterprise expert who can support social enterprises and cooperatives with advice and guidance on planning, financial forecasting, as well as directing towards relevant funding streams. There's just one last thing I just wanted to pick up, which goes back to the investment point. There's so much investment coming into the city, and there's so much things we can be proud of, whether it's the North East Space Skills Technology Centre at Northumbria University, to the significant development at Forth Yards, the Healthy Innovation Neighbourhood at the General Hospital sites. The city centre, coming on to Councillor Cookson's point, will become more vibrant and family orientated. Eldon Square transformed with 65 million of development, creating creating and sustaining 900 jobs. We've also got the £40 million investment in Phoenix in Northumberland Street. We've seen the topping out at the HMRC hub, which the leader of the council joined. That's going to bring 9,000 workers into the heart of the city and help to bring thousands of pounds in economic and social value. In the budget last week, UK SPF funding, that's shared prosperity funding, has been we've maintained our things around the Levelling Up Fund project, so that's the River Tyne Restoration Facility, which is creating more jobs in that area of the city than there's ever been before. I think that's really important. That part of the city is really, really growing. We've got the City Centre and Granger Market project, and close to my heart, the Out West Leisure Centre, although not in my portfolio area. So I'll just finish up, Lord Mayor, by again thanking Councillor Hay, who deserves a lot of the credit for this report, and also all the officers for all their work. It's been a privilege getting to know them if I've started in this role, to see such a dedicated, passionate team, an experienced team, and together I think we can really deliver exciting projects for our city, building a thriving, inclusive Newcastle. And sorry, one last thing, just on the point mentioned earlier in regard to investment. So just to be clear, the North East has the second highest investment from foreign direct investment for any region outside London. In Newcastle, that means 2,000 direct jobs created and another 9,000 in the pipeline. And I think we should be shouting up about Newcastle and how fantastic our city is as a place to invest. And with a Labour council, with a Labour government and a Labour North East Mayor, I'm really excited about what the future brings. And I've said finally about 4 or 5 times, Lord Mayor, but finally, I just want to say, I hope everyone in the chamber who have worked with me in the past recognises I want to work with anyone. If anyone's got any ideas, any projects, anything they want to speak to us about, come forward, engage with me. I'm happy to engage with officers on your behalf. And I've already had a conversation with Councillor Stone. I don't know why Councillor Stone's heckling. I was not to be nice to you, Greg. Okay. I've already had a conversation with Councillor Stone about how I hope we can have a constructive relationship with him as chair of the group in the committee. So thank you very much, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Yes, thanks very much, Councillor Greenoff. An excellent first effort, actually. So does Council agree to receive the report? Yes. We now move on to item 11, and what we have in the supplemental is an extensive list of appointments. And we have a point of order. Okay, so who's going to the microphone? To the microphone. Okay, then, Councillor.
As you said previously, Lord Mayor, I may be experienced as a councillor, but I'm still getting used to the new procedures. I notice in Schedule A that there's no mention of one key committee of the council where I think there have been major changes over the last month, and that is to say Cabinet. I also look back at the annual meeting in May, which in item 7 resolved that the committees, subcommittees, blah, 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 under Schedule A shall be appointed for 2024-25. So it looks as if Council appoints those committees, but as it's currently constituted, it looks as if the Cabinet has not been approved by, or will not be approved by Council this month. I wondered if you could explain the reasoning.
Well, I can call on my legal advisor to explain the reason. Over to you.
As members will be aware, the Council operates a leader and executive model of governance under the Local Government Act 2000. And under that arrangement, it's for City Council to approve the Leader of Council. And it is then for the Leader of Council to appoint the Cabinet. So it's not a matter for the Council to make a decision. It is a matter for the Leader of Council to appoint their Cabinet.
Could I just ask a supplementary? Then, are you therefore saying that the minute on item 7 in the annual meeting is incorrect?
Sorry.
The minute of item 7 for the annual general meeting says resolved that the committees, subcommittees and working groups, delegated subcommittees, boards and panels, including chairs and vice chairs set out in Schedule A, be appointed for 24-25. That seems to say that Council has approved.
Yeah,
and it included the Cabinet.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, I don't have the annual meeting minutes in front of me. I think if there was reference to the Cabinet appointments in those meetings, it's probably as a matter of practice that we just record the composition of the Cabinet. But as a matter of law, it is a decision for the Council to appoint the Leader of the Council, and then the Leader of the Council appoints the Cabinet, or as the legislation refers to it, the Executive.
Does a list of the Cabinet members need to be published to the members of the Council? Because I've not seen one.
I think it's actually on the Council's website, and so it has been made available to the public.
All right.
Somebody else who wants to go to a microphone. I heard a voice somewhere. Did somebody else want to go to a microphone? No? No? Oh,
Hi.
sorry, Councillor Ellis, did you? Yeah.
Yes, please. Right, under point 15 of standing orders, I wish to move an amendment to the appointment list to include removing Councillor David Wood from the Constitutional Committee and then move the report as amended.
Is that seconded? Is that seconded? Seconded. Is that agreed? Well, I thought, aren't we looking to agree the whole list? Yep. So do we, just to return then to the to item 11, does Council agree the appointments as shown as amended? We've had an amendment there to remove Councillor Wood from that particular committee. Agreed. Agreed? Agreed? Yes, is that, yes? We have, yep. I think we had agreement there. So we're now moving on then to item 12 on the agenda. We're moving on to notice of motion. Sorry, yes, go to the microphone, yeah. One of those nights tonight. Yes, Councillor Ferguson.
Given the standing orders a good run for their money today, I would like to move under standing order 3D that the item currently under point 14 in relation to the independent inquiry is taken as the next item before the guillotine falls.
Is it seconded? Ozzy, I heard voices. Has somebody seconded it? Yes. Well, I think we've got second, third and fourth, haven't we? Is that agreed? No. So can we go to a vote? Remember what I said about people who aren't on go vote to stand up, declare your name and make your vote quite clear. Right, moving down the chamber, starting from this side, if you can just state your name and how you want to vote. Councillor Lovett, yes. Councillor Morrissey, yes. Councillor Mark Mitchell, yes. And then going over to this side, starting at the back there. Councillor Mufemba, no. Councillor Cairns, no. Councillor Nabila Ali, no. Anybody else? Have we missed anybody? I'm sure there were more people stood up last time. I'm sure that some people must have worked out how to do the go vote then, Tom. Right, so the vote is 28 yes, 31 no and 2 abstentions, so we just retain the agenda as it is. Okay, thank you. So if we go on to back to item, the first motion on the agenda to be moved by Councillor Stone, when I find it, and it's to do, sorry, it's item 12 on the agenda, yes. I'm getting instructions from all over the place tonight. So it's item 12 on the agenda, and I call on Councillor Stone to move this motion, to be seconded by Councillor Ashby, to do with North East Economic Strategy. Councillor Stone.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm glad to get this motion finally on the stand, because we've waited a little bit for it, but it's an important motion. I hope Council agrees. Lord Mayor, the motion recognises the importance of an effective economic strategy for Newcastle and to the region. As Scrutiny Chair for Economy, Jobs and Skills, I know its importance in creating the prosperity, the employment and the revenue that our city and region needs to fund the public sector jobs and public services that our city relies on. In a few weeks, it will be 2025. The existing regional economic strategy will be life expired. We're now more than 100 days into the Mayor's term of office. NECA has considerable funding streams and a remit to drive economic growth and create well-paid skilled jobs. But NECA does not yet, as far as I'm aware, have a replacement regional economic strategy. There is no sign yet of a growth and investment plan or how it will replace the LEP with the business board. It has not confirmed the appointment of senior directors for innovation and growth. Since the motion was first tabled, I see the NECA website section on cabinet portfolios suggests the leader of Newcastle City Council has been appointed to the NECA cabinet portfolio for the economy. When I first brought this motion at the beginning of October, the NECA website section on cabinet portfolio stated that economic strategy guides investment in the region to boost growth and productivity whilst proactively reducing inequality, but enticingly added that more information about this portfolio is coming soon. Oddly, this seems to have been taken down on October 22nd, but I'm sure that more information will be arriving any day now. Of course, NECA has great power and great funding, and I'm sure it is teeming with ideas on how to drive the economic renaissance of the region. But along with great rhetoric comes great responsibility to deliver. In my role as Economy Scrutiny Chair, it might be useful to offer a recap on how the region has fared on its economic targets since 2014. It's excellent news that the region is in touching distance of its target of 100,000 new jobs by the end of December. The region has exceeded its targets for better jobs in managerial, professional and technical roles, but total employment in other occupations has fallen. The gap between the employment rate for the North East and for England excluding London has not been closed, it is only reduced. The gap between the North East economy and that of England excluding London has shrunk by 5%, not 50% as the target states. The gap on GAV productivity has increased by 43% against the target of decreasing by 50%. So there is a clear challenge ahead on how best to boost economic growth and productivity for the North East. It will not be easy, but it needs a clear vision and a clear strategy, and at present, those seem to be missing. I know the Council places a reasonable emphasis on its inclusive economy strategy, but it's not yet clear to me it includes meaningful targets. I know we are preparing a local plan which may include key sector growth sites and economic development areas. I know the new government wants to drive growth and maybe even a new industrial strategy, but it's not yet clear to us how Newcastle will feature in it. Now, I don't claim to have all of the answers, but in the spirit of cross-party cooperation, can I offer two helpful suggestions for economic growth for consideration by the new leader and the new cabinet member who we've just heard from. The first is to study the truly impressive economic growth being secured by government policies to stimulate startups in Baltic countries like Estonia and Lithuania. They are a similar size to the North East, but they are amongst the fastest growing economies in Europe. And the second is to work with NECA and the Mayor on the feasibility of reintroducing a ferry connection to Norway, a cause I have long supported. Now, I imagine it's a little bit unrealistic to expect the new leader and the new cabinet member to have immediate answers to these questions and respond to this debate, but I invite them to consider three particularly important questions. What does the administration see as the USP for Newcastle's economy over the next 20 years? How will the administration ensure NECA's Mayor and Cabinet see Newcastle as a key hub for the North East economy, and that Newcastle continues to play a leading role in shaping the region's economic future? And will the minority administration cooperate on a cross-party basis to drive the growth and prosperity Newcastle and the North East need? On this side of this chamber, we are open for business, and open to working with you to make that happen, but we will have to draw a line in the sand when it comes to Riyadh. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Councillor Ashby.
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Is that agreed?
Agreed.
No, can we have a vote then? Has it been seconded? Yes, it's been seconded, third and whatever. Can we take a vote on that then? We are voting on suspension of the guillotine. I can't take a toilet break. Have we got all those? Is Councillor Ashby voting from a standing position or from a seated position?
For my place.
Oh, you've already voted. Okay, those who haven't voted, can you again rise? Okay, you've got all those, Linda? Have you got all the go votes? Yeah, you've got the go votes? Yeah, I'll do them, yeah. You've got the go votes, have you? Yeah, okay. Right, right. Starting on this side then, Councillor
Yes.
Councillor Morrissey, yes.
Councillor Mark Mitchell, yes.
Got that one. Mark Mitchell, yes. Councillor Mark Mitchell, yes, I can catch it. On this side, at the back. Councillor Mafemba, no. Councillor Cairns, no. We've got everybody. We've captured everybody. And we've got Councillor Ashby, of course, over there, have we? Okay. So can we have the figures? Yes. Yep, the vote is 29 in favour, 31 against and 1 abstention, so in fact we won't be suspending standing orders. That falls. Councillor Ashby, back to you then, seconding the motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. In seconding this motion, I have to declare my wife and I buy our own clothes and spectacles, and as I don't get down with the kids, any offer of Taylor Swift tickets would be turned down gracefully, although under the Newcastle Charter, that offer would, of course, be declared. The success of the North East Mayoralty is of critical importance to Newcastle, and my hopes are that it is. But we need reality. I would mention a few issues. Net zero offers opportunities to us, but the artificial target of 2030 for carbon neutrality is setting us up for failure and public disillusion. The leader of the GMB Union told the Labour Party conference that its reckless pursuit is accelerating deindustrialisation and mass layoffs. To get renewable energy into our homes and factories requires a renewal and expansion of the national grid. But, he said, there aren't enough cable makers to make the wires and maintain them. It's of no use to us to fund manufacturers to make kit cheaply abroad, maybe with virtual slave labour, import it here and then remit profits abroad. Our manufacturers in particular need more skilled workers to be trained as a matter of priority. I've previously addressed Council about the need for parity of esteem between those attending university and those trained in practical skills. It's counterintuitive for people to get degrees and incur the student debt first introduced by a previous Labour government and recently increased by this government, who are then able to get jobs only in call centres or burger bars. Surely it is better to encourage them and industry to take up apprenticeships and get the skills the region and nation need. There's a role for the mayoralty that must take up. Use political influence with ministers to get them visiting our technology colleges and training centres. Laud our best apprentices. Show respect to our practical engineers and others. Encourage our companies to invest in training by rewarding them. Let the mayor make a priority of attending business events. I heartily recommend to her Asian Business Connections, for instance, whose annual awards she was unable to attend recently. In similar vein, take note that a recent study showed that 2/3 of small businesses never deliver a positive return to those who invest their cash and time and lives in trying to create wealth and jobs. Mentor them, give prizes and publicity to those who do. Their success and growth is the key to the long term. Don't forget, our local titans, Sage and Greggs, started tiny. Time precludes me from offering more advice, except to say that for all of us, the mayoralty needs to be transparent, accountable and successful. I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ashby. We have an amendment to be moved by Councillor Hay, I understand, and seconded by Councillor Greenhoff.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Both the amendment and the original motion present a positive and forward-looking vision for the future of Newcastle and the North East. As the North East's LEP Strategic Economic Plan draws to a close, it's important to acknowledge the significant progress we've made. Nearly 90% of the target to create 100,000 new jobs has been achieved, and if they've exceeded the target for better jobs in managerial and technical roles. These are achievements to be proud of. But, as always, there's more to do. The North East Combined Authority is developing a local growth plan, which is a fantastic opportunity to set new, ambitious goals for the region's growth. It will provide a platform to secure the investment needed to support growth and ensure we unlock the full potential of our region. The local growth plan gives us the chance to champion an economy that works for everyone, with a focus on inclusivity and fairness, reducing child poverty and ensuring that growth benefits all of our communities. As this work moves forward, Newcastle has a key role in shaping the priorities for the region, ensuring that our city's needs and aspirations are central to the conversation. The local growth plan and this motion is about building on our successes, addressing the challenges that lie ahead and ensuring a brighter, more inclusive future for Newcastle and the North East. And I move the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Councillor Greenhoff.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I'm going to second the amendment, which I hope is seen as a friendly amendment. I know we had a conversation with Councillor Stone previously. Interestingly, slight divergence, but Councillor Stone mentioned looking at Lithuania as someone who recently discovered that I'm quite Lithuanian unexpectedly. I'm happy to have a look at Lithuania and see what's going on there, certainly. So devolution is something that I am excited by, and I know many of us share that across the chamber. It provides us with huge opportunities, and it gives local leaders greater levers to deliver a new shared economic plan through the North East Combined Authority. The Mayor and the authority is new, and he's right that we seize the opportunity that I have every confidence we will. The local growth plan is being developed, and I know that the leader and Newcastle will play a crucial role in that. This is a real opportunity, really, to set out what economic growth means, how it works, and how it works crucially for us and for our residents. It means embedding an inclusive economic approach and a focus on the reduction of child poverty. These are shared values that we have as a council and a combined authority, and I know that the Mayor shares them herself. As the amendment sets out, we will continue to work with the North East Mayor and the Cabinet in the preparation of a local growth plan, and this will be the platform for engaging with government about priorities and to unlock projects, capital and the settlement funding. For me, the local growth plan should complement a national industrial strategy, something that a Labour Council, again I'm going to say this, a Labour Council working with a Labour Mayor and a Labour Government can deliver and will deliver for Newcastle and our communities. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Greenhoff. The guillotine has fallen. I'm aware that Councillor Stone obviously does have a right of reply. I've only got one. I can call one speaker, and I've got Councillor Ferguson as the one speaker to speak before I call on Councillor Stone to reply.
Sorry, I wasn't really prepared for that, Lord Mayor. So let's see where we get to. I obviously take an interest in the North East Economic Strategy as the chair of the Combined Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And one of the things that the committee has been very interested in the initial work that we've been doing is engaging with all of the portfolio holders to find out about the various different areas of development within the Combined Authorities business. We haven't yet been able to receive a briefing about the economy portfolio, but I look forward to receiving one of those in due course. It strikes me in looking at where Newcastle and the North East can go in terms of economic strategy and economic development, that there are a number of different considerations that we need to put into the mix. First of all, I think it's absolutely critical that we understand the North East's unique strengths. All too often, economic strategies look like you could take the name of one place out and put another name in, and we all like to talk about the same things. And I think it's critically important that we look at where the North East actually has some real strengths. Indeed, we know that the North East has been a region that's been historically very strong in exporting, and you could perhaps boil that down to a small number, shall we say, of key businesses. But I think it prompts the question of if there are one or two key employers in the region that drive a significant amount of economic growth, where are the next 3, 4 or 5 of them going to come? So that, and I think it was Andy Haldane's words, we don't just look at 3% economic growth, but we look at 10% economic growth, the kind of economic growth that really makes a transformational difference. I think it's absolutely right that we're going to have to work with the Combined Authority. I know that Lib Dems have some misgivings about the precise model of devolution that we've got, but we recognise that it is the model that we're with. We need to maximise the opportunities that it provides us with. So that means then that when we look at the investment zones, we need to look at the supply chains that provide them, so that not just those little economic areas, but all of the parts of the North East, through Newcastle into Hexham and Consett and Berwick, all survive and thrive and create important businesses within supply chains that feed our investment zone areas. And ultimately, that benefits all of us, and it benefits Newcastle. I think, just to conclude, Lord Mayor, the leader said earlier in reference to the local plan that someone said to her recently that it's only politicians who see borders. I have a sneaking suspicion that was me. And in actual fact, that was perhaps the point I was trying to make in the sense of the local plan. And so I hope that in any economic strategy that we have here at a local level, we recognise that it's not just about Newcastle, but at the end of the day, when Newcastle thrives, the North East thrives. When the North East thrives, so does Newcastle. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Stone.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, for the debate on this topic. It is an important issue, and I do appreciate the positive contributions that colleagues have made. I agree very much with Councillor Ferguson that this is something that needs to be driven forward, obviously at regional level, but I absolutely welcome the comments made by Councillor Hay and Councillor Greenough in terms of the local administration's approach to delivering this as well. I could be mischievous and make some comments about a little bit of uncertainty that I hear in the regional sort of shuffling around of people to go for different portfolios. But I gather Karen's been lucky in terms of winning the argument on that one, so that's good news. I think that ultimately, as we've talked about, there is a very important case for regional economic growth. Councillor Ferguson has mentioned that sometimes these can be chopped and changed with different places and having very similar sorts of strategies, but that uniqueness of the North East is very important on this. And it is important to us all because we need that growth, because we need the revenue and to be able to fund the public services we need in this region. So that there is an important dynamic here. And I know that the new government has talked about growth. The figures are going to be challenging, I think it's fair to say, over the next coming years, and but that does have implications for spending plans as well. So I think it is important that we all do work together to try and help drive this process forward. We will play our part in that, and I think that as we know, we have a regional devolution deal with a lot of money. We have a setup now with a regional mayor leading it and driving that process forward. There is the opportunity there to do that, and alongside those exciting powers and those exciting resources that she has, there is also an important case for accountability as well. So we will keep on playing our part to keep an eye on what is being delivered, to challenge and to scrutinise what happens on that. And I'm sure that Councillor Ferguson, with the scrutiny chair, Tom, will ensure that he's at the forefront of that process. But we will keep a close eye on this going forward, certainly. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stone. We're now then going to the vote. We're going to the amendment first of all, and there was a suggestion from Councillor Greenoff that this might be a friendly amendment. So is the amendment agreed? So then we go back to the motion as amended. Is the motion as amended agreed by Council? Agreed, thank you. We have 4 further motions. We've now passed the guillotine that I want to go through to see whether we're dealing with them this evening or deferring to a future meeting. We have motion 13, compassion in politics, to be moved by Councillor Hartley. Do you wish that motion to be dealt with this evening?
Yes, please. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
In that case, have we got a seconder? Yes. We've also got an amendment from Councillor Irim Ali. Sorry?
Lord Mayor, Councillor Ali is unavailable tonight, so I'll propose the amendment.
And to be seconded by Councillor Wright. Okay, if we can move to the vote. We're voting first of all on the amendment. In that case, can we go to the vote on the amendment to motion 13? Right, okay then. Councillor Morrissey and others. Councillor Morrissey, no. Votes against. Councillor Mark Mitchell, against. Councillor Mafemba, yes. Councillor Cairns, yes. Anyone else? Anyone we missed? Oh, yes.
Councillor Hunter?
Councillor Hunter, no. The vote is 32 in favour, 29 against, one abstention, so the amendment is carried. We now return to the motion as amended. Can we have, is the motion agreed as amended? Agreed, that's agreed, is it? Okay, we then move on to motion number 14, which is to be moved by Councillor Ferguson and to be seconded by Councillor Mark Mitchell.
Lord Mayor, I think the subject isn't getting any less relevant for debate, so I'd like to move it over.
Okay. And motion 15 again to decide what we're going to do about this one, to be the motion to be moved by Councillor Storey and seconded. Well, I've got Councillor Frew, but obviously Councillor Frew's not here this evening, so I assume we have a substitute seconder. And do we have a seconder? Yes, I'm seconding. Thank you, Councillor Lambert. So if we just move to a vote on that. Sorry? Yeah, well, that's what I was going to do. Okay. Right. Is the motion agreed? Yeah, okay. The motion 16 is to do with special education needs. Motion 16, yes, to be moved by Councillor Ferguson and seconded by Councillor Morrissey, Christine Morrissey. Do we wish to deal with that this evening? Hold it over. Okay. And I think that concludes the business of the meeting. Yep, concludes the business of the meeting. So just to remind you that the next meeting of Council is on Wednesday, the 4th of December, 6 p.m. So thanks very much for your contributions this evening. Just the usual reminder, could you please remain in your places until myself and the Sheriff have left the Council chamber. Thank you.